Hello and welcome to Alternate Image Raid. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we're going to tackle the normal Hydra boss for rotation number 6. That's the one that we are currently on right now, and of course we'll come back over every few months. For this team, I'm strategizing for a couple of different things. It is similar to the last rotation, but actually a little bit worse. So this particular one has the Head of Decay, which can remove all debuffs from the enemy heads, which is problematic because it makes it hard to keep them debuffed down. It also has the Fear Boss, which is what makes this a little bit more difficult. And they have the Head of Mischief, which is hard to target unless it's hexed. And it will steal turn meter and buffs from your team, spread them to the enemy team. That's problematic. And then just a really big hit from the Head of Wrath. So what I'm going for this one is actually to I kind of ignore most of their mechanics, really. We're going to go with Deacon for a speed lead, turn meter boost, just to help our team go through quicker. We're going Doompriest to cleanse debuffs. This is going to help get some of those fears off of our team. And just a little bit of a control on the debuffs here. Any debuff cleanser is going to be decent in that slot. We have Scyl providing a res and heal and damage. We have Visix to provide a taunt for the head that will cleanse the enemy team. We have Geomancer for just passive damage, and we have Fenax for block debuffs. It is similar to what we ran last time, but a little bit different because we're going to kind of ignore putting buffs on our team as much as possible. So them stealing it doesn't matter. And with the passive debuff cleanse, it helps the Fear Boss from mattering a lot too. So anyway, here we go. We're going to do this on normal. And in this case, Visix's Blessing is going to provide a little bit of extra damage for us. So I'm going to start this off on manual because there's a couple things I want to do before we get going. So I'm going to take him, although that doesn't really matter, not the most important thing. What we are going to do, however, is get this burn on the right target because that's where I want the damage to go. We're going to get the taunt up over here to make sure that we at least get one turn of having the debuffs where we want them. And then from there we can just let it go. This is going to be done mostly on auto. I will probably take control occasionally, and I will definitely change how the targets go because the AI isn't really good, especially when our champions get eaten. And actually, we're just generally going to try to focus this head for the time being, as getting rid of it is probably the most ideal path for success. So we'll just let this run through. You can watch kind of how it goes down. There will be a little bit ups and downs in this run. We should probably have some people die. Scyl will res them. We're going to have a decent amount of damage come out from really everybody on the team other than Doompriest, who's mostly just there for the heal and the cleanse. Of course, after this, we will go over their stats and their masteries and all that sort of thing, just to make sure you see what these champions are working with. So there we have it, almost 20 million damage done. Essentially on auto, with the exception of just picking which head we're targeting on occasion. And if you paid attention to that long fast run, we'll notice that the Geomancer actually mistargets a lot of times and puts his burn on the head that are down, and they basically don't take any damage because they'll come back up right after that. So manual could get even more damage out of this. So if your gear was a little bit lower or you're missing a champ or two, you're not going to struggle. We'll see from the damage breakdown that while Geo did the most damage, you could remove him and we would still be well in the amount of damage we need, as long as you replace him with somebody that provided something equivalent to his 15% passive reduction. So getting an extra heal or an extra res, anything like that, is going to be solid for Geo. Fenax did okay damage, Visix did decent, Scyl, Deacon, they all had solid damage, and damage-wise, any one of them could be replaced, and we would still be well over the 6 and change million that we need. We got almost to 20. So let's go check out some stats of these champions, and we're going to see kind of what they're bringing to the table, along with go over some alternatives of what else could be used to cover their kits. Visix is in lifesteal. I love lifesteal for Visix in general, particularly given that her A2 is an ally protect. So she's healing up with these AoE abilities on her A2 and her A3. She's getting that extra sustain for herself since she is taking the damage for the team. And the taunt here is providing work for one of the primary heads that can strip the debuffs off of the bosses. We do have Brimstone that's providing some extra damage. She'd probably be like half damage if it weren't for that, but she should still do her role here. Masteries, we took her in through War Master, pretty standard stuff just to get her extra boss damage. And that War Master can proc her lifesteal, which helps a lot as well. And then for stats, decent HP, decent defense, okay damage, and then accuracy over 250, along with some okay speed. Kind of an all-rounder champ here. Nothing really remarkable. Defense could be higher, but it's kind of just depending on how you want to build her. Do you want to build her tankier with more defense? Do you want to reduce the crit rate and damage so you can get that extra survivability? Do you want her to make sure she can block more? It kind of goes however you would like. This is how I build her. Scyl, we have Relentless, just to take extra turns so that her passive here will proc and give us extra heals and speed buffs. We have a res. We have an AoE, which the stun doesn't matter, but since one of the heads is not targetable, the AoE will help break champions out of that head, even if we can't target it directly. Masteries, we did go through War Master as well, pretty standard. And then for our stats, HP is a little bit low probably for the kind of champion, but really high defense. Okay damage, crit rate should be higher, and then the accuracy is close enough. Speed, I'd probably like to be a little higher too, especially rotating through these turns. At this point, I could probably re-gear her and get a little bit more stats out of her, but she's pretty good in most places. Geomancer, the sets aren't really important. I was going for a ton of accuracy for that Iron Twins boss. We are going HP, attack, and defense all decently to keep the champion alive while still doing some damage. Speed here, and then the crit rate and crit damage are relatively low because this build is primarily gained for landing the burn and doing damage via the burn, so the accuracy is really high. It doesn't need to be this high for especially normal Hydra. For the masteries, we did go through War Master, pretty standard. And then the skills I just want to highlight, the 15% decreased damage to all allies, along with this targets the passive reflect here through the HP burn target. It's a pretty nice thing. And again, we have another AoE on the A1. The reason for this AoE being so valuable is, again, we're not bringing a Hex on this team. So the Head of Mischief can't be targeted directly. This will help make sure we are breaking out the enemy, or breaking out our team from the enemy. Doompriest, great champion for this heal all allies and a passive 1 debuff cleanse. This pretty much keeps that I don't remember the name, the head that provides the fear from being as potent as it could be. Masteries are not done yet, and then we also have her in a reflex set, a relentless set, in order to get extra turns, rotate through more of these passives, cleansing, healing, exceptional. The stats are pretty decent, kind of a lot of HP, decent defense, and then that's really about it. We don't have to worry about any debuffs here. So you just want this champion to be relatively fast. Faster would be fine, and to survive. Doompriest is going to be on a different team of mine, so the speed isn't as high as I would otherwise get it. And then Deacon. Deacon is our speed lead. Deacon is just trying to go fast and land debuffs, but my Deacon has also built a pretty good amount of damage. So we have HP just not being too squishy, okay attack, okay defense even still, high speed, lots of crit rate and damage, and accuracy to land. Deacon is probably the best geared champion I have on this team, actually, when you consider all of the stats. But you could sacrifice almost anything for this and still succeed. The damage doesn't have to be as high for this to work. And if you're going to sacrifice anything, I don't think it should be survivability, at least not for this Hydra. So accuracy is a little bit higher than we need here. And otherwise, you want him to live. You want him to go fast. You want him to rotate through his turns. You want him to use this to increase your turn meters. It won't decrease theirs, but you get to go faster. AoE decrease defense, and then a chance of placing a leech, which isn't bad for that survivability, plus 19% speed in all battles. For masteries, we did take him through War Master. And then last but not least, we have Fenax. Fenax is probably the least geared champion that I have. We see that his stats aren't really very high. His attack is okay. His damage is okay. His accuracy is enough, which is good, and then decent speed. We have him in lifesteal if not fully 16'd out or enchanted. Obviously, this champion would do better if it was. Lifesteal I do like, particularly for him on this team, because he's able to get some self-sustain so he can stay in the fight longer, taking some of the burden off of our healers and res. The skill that's really nice that he has that I like is this block buffs. This is why he's here. He's blocking buffs. He's helping the champion or the Hydra that takes our buffs from getting them. It helps prevent them from spreading them. And a couple of the other ones do some things that are kind of annoying if they get buffed. So we're trying to avoid that. He still provides also decreased defense and a slow. And then his A1 block revive doesn't matter. And we have no masteries. Okay, so what else could we be doing? What other champions could we bring? So I'm mostly going for a strategy here. A lot of these champions are replaceable, and I did purposely avoid any void champions, at least that aren't guaranteed. Our only legendaries are login rewards. Obviously, getting any one of these champions isn't necessarily easy because it's hard to target. However, they are all replaceable with somebody else. Geomancer is providing something unique in his HP burn reflect, but it isn't necessary here. What he needs to do to make sure you're getting to your 6.66 million is really the decreased damage. So for Geomancer, if you need to replace him with somebody, replace him with anybody who's providing a non-buff based sustain to you. So you don't want to bring somebody like, say, Demitha, who is going to put a block damage and a continuous heal that will get stolen. So find somebody you have that can provide some increased healing. You know, obviously this is not an accessible champ, but AoE healing, res, that isn't providing any debuffs. So whoever you have that's doing that, Wood Painted actually isn't bad for that. She's providing a massive heal onto the whole team. The reflect damage isn't terrible, particularly if you have somebody providing block buffs, and it's not going to kill you too quickly for the most part. So whoever you have that is going to provide some additional healing without buffing your team too much, at least for this strategy. Same thing for Scyl, additional healing along with a res. You're going to need a res on this team. You're probably going to die, at least I did, if you're not bringing someone incredibly tanky. Visix can be replaced by anybody who is kind of tanky and providing you with a taunt. And the ally protect is nice but not necessary because it will often get stolen. So for that, I have somebody like, obviously you go crazy and go Chris, but Chris actually is worse than Visix because Chris will provide a self-heal and this heal over time here, and that continuous heal can be stolen, which is not ideal. So we could bring someone like Sandlashed who can manual provoke. It won't be the AoE, so you'll have to target this a little bit more often. And then the decreased debuffs will help keep them off the enemy team, something to keep them from being debuffed. So whoever you have that's going to provide some additional tankiness to your team and some a taunt is really necessary. Doompriest can be replaced, of course, by somebody better like Tehanarak, or even you could replace her with somebody like Reliquary Tender here, because we have the remove all debuffs. It does place the continuous heal, which does have to be mana, so you'd probably be taking more manual control, but the heal chance is nice, removes all debuffs, and then the revives an ally. Obviously, somebody who's providing passive debuff cleansing is a little bit better, but there's not a lot of options doing that, so anybody that's providing you that cleanse is going to be pretty nice. Another all-rounder champion for that role, and this is also somebody who can replace Fenax, is Ugo. We have the decreased defense and block buffs, which is a great A2, and then we also have a cleanse. Of course, this one's only on a 4-turn cooldown, so your team is going to get feared a lot more often and go much slower, but it's still not terrible for getting a cleanse. Having somebody cleansing is really necessary, and then the block buffs is great. So Ugo's an excellent champion that can replace either Doompriest or Fenax or both. Because that's pretty much the kit we're going with. And then for Deacon, having a speed lead isn't necessary on this, but I do like it to have our champions rotate through, particularly in this comp where we're not trying to directly fight most of their mechanics, we're just trying to avoid them. So Deacon speed lead is really great. So any speed lead in all battles is going to provide you with a pretty good amount of value. Or if you can't necessarily get the speed lead, then providing somebody else who's getting a turn meter boost is going to be pretty nice. Seeker comes in here as another great option, providing a turn meter boost, which is pretty good. It's a strong one, as well as another chance at a provoke. So again, you could swap out Visix and Deacon for Seeker. If you have a different champion, you want to do a different role. Seeker can provide this taunt. Again, you're going to need to take more manual control, make sure the taunt is going off on that head that can strip buffs. But that's sort of the strategy. So we want a taunt, we want to block buffs, we want a res, and we want some kind of a buff cleanse or debuff cleanse on our team. Any slot of champions doing that on this boss, particularly on normal, is going to get the job done for you. Yeah, and that's really about it. That's the strategy to go with here. Obviously, there are other options, but this one I find is the absolute most flexible. You don't have to have a champion bringing any specific thing that is unique. You don't have to have a good hex champion or anything like that to get through this boss. And then the gear requirements can be a lot lower. You don't need to get 20 million. You only need to get almost 7. So any of these guys could be even weaker gear than I have, and they would still work it through. This has been an alternate image raid video. I hope you liked it. If you liked, definitely like. If this brings some value to you, let me know in the comments. And then sub, of course, if you really liked it and want to see more like this. And if you disliked it, then smash that downvote button there because it's still engaging for the channel. And as always, have a great day.